Well, well, well. What a return. I've got Mr. Dickson back on. Steve, where have you been, mate? What's been happening?
Hi, Chris. Happy New Year, I feel like I should say.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. Yeah, just which one? How you been?
I've been very well, thank you. Yeah, no, I've been very good. I've been exceptionally busy, which has kept me away from the podcasts and on the road, I guess, a lot more than maybe expected. But I think that's a good thing. It's good to be on the road. Getting the balance, of course, is always the challenge, as you know, and you've been trying to work that out for years, I guess. But no, look, it's good to be back with you. I feel this feels almost nostalgic.
Yeah. Yes, it does. But things must be going well, mate. You got your own line in clothing and sportswear now, so obviously business is booming.
Yeah, the sportswear, but I'm not very sporting myself. Although I have been trying to get a little bit fitter, let's say. That's easier said than done when you're used to sitting on an aircraft and eating whatever they throw at you. Although what they throw at you is generally better in some cabins than others. I've been doing a lot in the others recently because I've been flying regionally, and there's not much on offer in AirAsia these days. So
yeah.
Anyway, let's keep that between you and I, won't we?
Yeah, we will.
I wouldn't want anybody else to think that I'd be, sort of slumming it down the back.
No. You've perished the thought, mate, Mr. 1A. Right, now, business-wise. So, in your opinion now, mate, what are the big ticket items that people need to be addressing?
Oh, I think, Chris, I mean, there's still an awful lot going on. There's still an awful lot of growing pains. I mean, if you look at the airlines, almost exclusively each every OEM's got challenges, whether it be manufacturers or the power plants, the engine manufacturers, and that of course has caused a huge sort of ripple through airlines trying to recover capacity. So whether the Pratt and Whitney GTF powered Neos or the Boeing Max customers at the narrow body end, they're both feeling the hardship. Yeah. I guess CFM have a little chuckle to themselves for their customers that have chosen that power plant on the 320 because they've been doing quite well. But Airbus posted their results last week. I don't know if you saw them, but a very good set of results deliveries in 2023, massively up on 2022, obviously, which is pretty good. Order book is full going forward. I think Boeing's still got some challenges. What does that mean for the rest of the industry? Well, I think it means airlines that were planning to retire or replace or refleet have had to delay some of that. That's meant the lessors maybe have had to renegotiate some of those deals because of course pricing that was placed a while ago, or aircraft that were placed a while ago may well now be sitting at a different price point in the market. I know a lot of the lessors have been trying to do that, and the market for CEOs, for example, or for the NGs has been very buoyant. But of course, that's given airlines a lot of challenges with deliveries that they expected. And I'd heard between 30 to 50% of the Neos narrow body are grounded or will be grounded. Just can't get the capacity in the shops, the engine shops. Pratt and Whitney have all their own shops. They don't outsource it to others, third parties like other OEMs do. So that's been a big challenge for the airlines and all of their associated resource planning, their growth planning, their summer 24, summer 25, all the exciting stuff that they want to do, of course. And I'm sure the ripple's been felt through airports and ground handlers as well. So, I think that, there's been this, huge resurgence in travel and very buoyant travel demand that's kept prices high. That's also been a challenge, not for the airlines, but been a challenge for the Joe public. I think a lot of feeling of disquiet in particular parts of the world about price points where they now sit versus where they once were before. So I think consumers are feeling that in their pocket. We know that economically, different markets are challenged as well, and I think economically people are hurting as energy prices and fuel prices and all that has been on the go as well. So hey, lots to get through and lots going on in different quarters, but no doubt we'll try to do it justice as best we can, Chris.
Yeah, no, exactly, mate. But anyhow, I'm pleased to have you back on, Steve. But a lot of people, I've been at a lot of conferences towards the latter part of 2023, and every time I come up, they'd say, "Where's your man? Where's the man who likes to voice his opinion?" And I'm thinking, who the hell are they talking about? And then when I put it together, I thought, right, better get him back on. So no, but seriously, it's good to have you back on. But what I want to ask you, Steve, is everybody's talking now about various challenges, and thanks for bringing in there about the OEMs and Boeing obviously having a bit of a tough old time lately with a particular incident that triggered a certain concern about safety measures and safety controls, which is one of the biggest challenges that everybody's got at the moment anyhow.
Yeah, I think, Boeing have not done themselves any favours. The fallout from was it the Ethiopian that was the first, and then I think the Lion was the second incident, and then I think it was a very, very close one in China. So all in very quick succession. But since then, they haven't sort of covered themselves in glory. A very close relationship with the regulator. The regulator has now taken a bit more of a hold of that relationship, although probably not soon enough. I know the most recent of incidents obviously affecting the Dash 9 with that blowout. How nobody was pulled out of that plug door that failed, I've got no idea. That plug door coincidentally was manufactured here in Malaysia by Spirit Aerosystems. Malaysia, for those unaware, sorry, slight tangent. You would never have expected that from me, Chris, would you?
No.
A slight tangent. Malaysia has a very buoyant. I've used that word third time on this podcast. I'm not using it very often, but 3 times in one show. Aerospace industry, not just driven by the airlines, but actually aerospace and manufacturing. And Spirit is one of many suppliers here who provide to Boeing and Airbus. Anyway, just of interest for those that may be. Singapore Air Show, of course, is this week next door down the road. I am not there. I'd planned to go, but then I thought, what would I do? I don't really have a need to buy any aircraft right now.
Yeah.
Sort of park out my front door. So difficult enough getting the car in the driveway. But so look, let's see what happened in Singapore this week. I'm not sure there'll be that many orders announced that we haven't already seen them. Maybe 1 or 2 just for the PR value.
Yeah.
The political capital, of course, that will drive. Singapore is a big show, not quite as big as Farnborough or Paris, of course, but it is one of the big shows of the world alongside Dubai, and we'll see what comes from that. But no, look, I think Boeing have got a lot of work to do. To see the tears that came from the CEO during that press conference. I'm not sure if they practiced his best crocodile tears or if they were genuine. Let's hope that they were the latter. But meantime, Airbus, of course, have been stealing a rump of orders on the back of some of those Boeing issues. But of course, we all know that Airbus pricing is not what it used to be. The pricing that carriers had locked in several years ago and had gone back to the manufacturer and trying to sort of replicate is no longer on the table. So Airbus are doing well, but they've got a lot to get through as well to ramp up capacity, and they've still got the power plant issues as well. So we'll see what that means.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? When things seem to go a little bit haywire or challenges are, jumping over the horizon, it seems to be never ending. And everything at the moment, politically, globally, everything seems to be up in the air. So let's hope America becomes strong again very soon.
Yes, absolutely. Let's make America great again.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Steve,
nice colour t-shirt there, Chris. My choice in t-shirt. My t-shirt colour.
Yeah, red. It's
well, as long as it's the US politics red. The UK politics, I'm more of a blue man.
Oh yeah, no. Believe you me, no. This isn't UK. No. This is an old water sports t-shirt many years ago. But Steve, listen, I've been doing a lot of travelling as well lately, and looking out on the ramp now with the chances of being bussed to certain stands, but also some of the airports now, where you get into the lounges, they've got some great views over the ramp. And some of the things that I'm seeing are endemic now, in my opinion, of, the what's going on. And, you know, Joe Public also gets those same views. And I think they're getting a little bit more of an educated glimpse of some of the issues, which are obvious to anybody, that, you know, not being done correctly. Now, that must be a major concern, not just for the handling side of it, but also the airports, the operators, the owners.
Is it? I'd like to think so.
Well, it should be. It should be. And in my opinion, I just want to get yours. I think airports now should take a much more oversight and controlling perspective on who's doing business on their airport and how they're doing it.
I think you're absolutely spot on, Chris. In terms of the aspiration, I think that is should be the expectation, particularly of airlines who, when they select a new destination, would expect a degree of quality control or critical assessment of the available ground handlers at any given station, based on a set of criteria and competencies that the airport would put the ground handlers through. I'm not sure that that's what we've seen, and I'm not sure that's what I see. You might choose to sit in the window seat. I tend to choose to sit near the bar, in which case that's normally sort of, the inner centre of said lounge rather than on the outer, and therefore you can't see the action. But you're absolutely right. I mean, customers have become more aware to this. I mean, I think the sort of videos that you see popping up online of, the way in which people's bags are handled, or or not handled, let's say mishandled, not through any malice maybe, but just through seeing the wrong behaviors as a result of fatigue, or as a result of lack of training, or as a result of days off, or as a result of actually management doesn't care, and therefore employee doesn't care. Comes back to care, Chris, that care principle that we speak about all so often.
Exactly.
And I'd like to think that airports care more. I do think there are some pockets of good examples, though. I mean, I think there are some airports that take much more interest in the policing or the enforcing of standards amongst the ground handling community. I don't want to name any, but a number of airports that I was speaking to last year, as part of a piece of work that we did for the UK government, the ground handling study for the Department for Transport, which essentially was a review into pre-COVID and COVID ground handling issues and implications. There was a couple of airports in the UK who actually were doing some really good stuff, or were proposing to do really good stuff, but actually the implementation was hampered by the airlines, because it was the airlines who were driving down via the commercial negotiations, were driving, or seemed to be driving in some of the standards. And if the airport were putting in higher standards, then potentially the perceived requirement of the airline saw this as a bit of a threat. Now, how does one deal with that? Maybe I'll throw that back to you. How do you? I mean, I see it as a virtuous circle. I see that the fact that if you contract, a decent ground handler who delivers good standards, who delivers good outcomes, who delivers good OTP coupled with good safety, good customer, you tend to then manage the expectation of and expect a longer tenure with your client. You're probably able to reduce attrition because you're doing things around staff bonding things, or incentivizing better behaviors or whatever. So then when it comes to the contract renewal, you do tick, a little bit of work to do here, contract renewal, 3 years, and here's your bonus. Give that to the staff who they want to work on your product, they feel more engaged in your product. I mean, it's easy for us to talk about it here, Chris, but why does that not exist, do you think, in the industry at that sort of level?
I think, mate, a lot of it is to do with balls and people being able to say no. And until something more now serious happens, I don't see it happening. Now, I take it fully that some airports are a lot better than any others, but that's the same in any walk of life. You always get the good ones, and you get the mediocre ones, and you get the ones who are just happy to carry on the way they are. But people have got to, I think now, they've got to take note of what's going on. Risk assessments, worst case scenarios, always too late to say would have, could have, should have, and people now need to start putting and stamping their foot down to a degree, and saying, look, these are the minimum standards that has to be acquired if you want to maintain your license, and if not, I'm sorry, but you know, whether it's 1, 2, 3 strikes and out, whatever the case may be, there has to be a tougher stance on it. And where you've got too much competition, it just, like you say, breeds the opportunity for price to just keep spiraling down and the never-ending story. And I think they've got to take their foot off the accelerator a little bit now, put it on the brake and say, look, we need to make sure that our airports are as safe as they should be. And also, like you said, give people the impression that they do genuinely care, so that people are more pleased to work in the airport community than for a particular company working within the airport environment. And I think that's also important.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, and you know, it was just luck that you knew people at an airport or you lived near there, and that's how you got into the business. You know, nobody sat in a classroom and said, I can't wait to work in cargo for the rest of my life. Yeah. But you know, then you started having a little bit of pride about, you know, where you worked and the airport, and that needs to come back, I think, and people need to have another look at it. And also, I think airports now should start dishing out, you know, apprenticeships, airport apprenticeships, airport operator apprenticeships. And I don't mean just as an airport operator, but anybody that operates on an airport. So they go through a general apprenticeship and then they decide what sector they enjoyed, and hopefully that sector will be crying out for people, should be, and then they get slotted in. But they've got a better all-round understanding of the mechanics and the interface and the actual supply chain of services and outputs to make them want to stay in the business and see what a great career it can be.
Yeah, I mean, I fully subscribe and support the idea of aviation apprenticeships. I mean, I wouldn't say that I did an apprenticeship in a formal sense, Chris, but
yeah,
you're absolutely right. I had exactly that. I knew a chap whom you know, a guy by the name of Andy Thornton.
Yes.
Who put me in touch with a guy called Tom McBain. It's only because I was learning to fly with Andy, and he put me in touch with a guy called Tom McBain, who was the operations and dispatch manager for Service Air. And so I thought, well, whilst I'm learning to fly, I could earn a couple of quid by being a dispatcher, which I have to say was the best job in the airport by far, and still is.
Yeah,
still
I agree.
But through that, you know, having worked on the ramp and worked in dispatch, worked in ops control, then putting your hand up for overtime and doing it, that was my apprenticeship. I mean, I very much sensed that was ability to get an apprenticeship without the formal structure. But kids these days, I suspect, need more than just a connection and a friendly sort of foot in the door, aided or abetted by a friend or a family friend or whatever. I think there needs to be much more structure. I think that's because of some of the generational issues that I won't touch on. I'd love to, but that's for another show. I do think, you know, the generation today needs more structure and more discipline and more I wouldn't say coercion, that's maybe the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean. It needs certainly a bit more incentive, right? Let's call it more incentive to get them out of bed in the morning and get them out the door and get them earning a crust, which was, you know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, everybody did, but that's not what we do now. So giving them that structure, getting them into an avenue like that, Chris, I do think is very, very beneficial. And why couldn't an airline, an airport, and a ground handler in the same single site collaborate to give them some of those, you know, some of that variation, or some of the, you know, 6 months with the ground handler, 6 months with the airline, 6 months with the airport, or whatever. I mean, I'm just plucking numbers out of my head, but the concept of that, supported by a helpful government, you know, the skills, whatever they're called these days, department of, I don't know, they've changed all the government department names, but you know, business innovation and skills, you know, they should be absolutely right on top of this, to try to sort of coerce. And this keeps kids going from, you know, falling out of the system and going a bit rogue, which is what we see all the time. And I pity these youngsters who don't have any, you know, all of these social clubs have closed. The snooker club down the road is closed. The bowling club we used to go and has closed. All of these things now are closing down. Yes, even public swimming pools and public baths are closing because of a lack of investment in public services. So maybe something like this needs to be driven forward. But it's not just in aviation. I guess it's in a lot of trades, Chris.
Of course it is, yeah. And then once you rotate through them, you have like a draft system, and then you'll soon start to see where people are more interested, and then you've got to ask why. So, you know, why do they always prefer one particular element? Then the other areas that are, you know, investing in it, they've got to spruce things up themselves, and then you pad it out. So, listen, 100%. I think maintaining the buoyancy of getting you back on board. I think, you know, we've now touched on a topic for another show, so we're keeping them a little bit shorter than they used to be. But I hope now you're going to come back on again.
Well, no, look, it's about the momentum, Chris.
Yes.
And creating momentum creates regularity, and having regularity creates interest, I suspect. So not only interest from me, but from our dear listeners, whom very kind of them to say that they wanted us back together. So the band is, at least for this week, back together, and let's hope it continues.
Back in the recording studio, yet to be decided on a tour.
Album name
Buoyancy. Buoyancy. Right. Listen, it's lovely to speak to you again, Steve. Nice to have you on board, and really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Speak soon. Take care.
Cheers.